On this edition of Good Day DePaul, voter registration. A DePaul group is urging students to vote in the November election.
Humanities X. It's a unique form of learning here at DePaul.
And a powerful exhibit at the DePaul Art Museum. I'm Lena Gebhardt.
And I'm Michaela Wilson, and this is Good Day DePaul. I'm Michaela Wilson, and right now we're on DePaul University's quad on April 30th, where earlier this morning, several pro-Palestinian students gathered and set up encampments in protest of the Israel-Hamas war. This protest follows several similar demonstrations happening on college campuses across the country.
Stop the killing! Stop the hate! Israel's a racist state!
Around 9 a.m. on Tuesday morning, pro-Palestinian DePaul students started setting up tents on the university's quad. The students are demanding that the DePaul administration divest from companies that the protesters say have business or investment in Israel, investments that they say are hurting Palestinians. Prayers broke out in the center of the quad while others waved flags and drew messages on the sidewalks.
Obviously, we're here today asking DePaul our list of demands, the most important one being divesting from companies that support the Palestinian suffering, Israeli apartheid or Israeli illegal settlements, and also financial transparency.
Hours into the gathering, a counter-protest began from a much smaller group of Jewish DePaul students. They gathered in a circle, dancing, chanting, and waving as pro-Palestinian students gathered with drums and speakers directly across from them.
We're out here to stand up to the hate that is being displayed on the other side of campus. I heard them chant that they don't want two states, they want all of it, which means they want violence, and we're against violence. We think Israel has the right to defend itself against terrorism.
The pro-Palestinian students say they're not going anywhere and will stay on the quad until their demands are met by the university administration.
We're here. We're waiting. These demands have been brought to them a long time ago. These aren't new demands. They've had time to think about these decisions and everything, so it's only a matter of time. We have people already ready for negotiations with administration, so we're waiting. We're not avoiding anything.
DePaul President Robert Manuel sent out a statement saying the university administration is monitoring the situation and has listened to the concerns raised and hopes to find a way to turn the pain many are feeling into a productive dialogue and action that leads to positive change. The university urges a dialogue of peace to ensure the safety of the campus community. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Michaela Wilson.
In less than 7 months, we'll be voting for the next president of the United States, a vote that could have critical implications for this country. With that in mind, a group at DePaul is urging students to register to vote. Good Day DePaul's Princess Siafa has details.
Election season is in full bloom, and here at DePaul University, a group called Vote DePaul, an arm of the Office of Student Engagement, is encouraging students to register and vote. Ava Fisher, a DePaul senior, sits at a registration table in the Students' Lounge in Lincoln Park. She answers questions, assists students with the registration process, and troubleshoots everything else.
A lot of people say that young people don't vote and young people don't care about politics, but really it's that the system of our democratic process is inaccessible, especially for young people. And what we need is to be taught how to best engage with it. And I think that Vote DePaul is a great effort to work toward that.
Many of the students stopping by the registration desks are first-time voters who are new to the entire process. Brooks, a freshman, was unsure if she was registered or not.
This is my first time voting, so that's why I wanted to make sure that I was signed up for it.
And John, a sophomore, says he hasn't decided whom he'll vote for in the presidential election. He also worries about the kind of information he's receiving about the candidates.
So it's hard to figure out what's reliable and what's unreliable because, people on TikTok and on Instagram and Twitter, a lot of it's good stuff, but a lot of it's also complete garbage. So it's hard to decipher as someone trying to educate themselves on who to vote for and what to vote for, what is a good source.
With deepfakes, misinformation, and disinformation spreading on the internet rapidly, it can be hard for young people who are constantly exposed to the internet to filter through the noise. During the New Hampshire primary, a deepfake of President Biden's voice told voters to stay at home.
It's important that you save your vote for the November election.
And AI images that falsely depicted former President Trump sitting with teenage girls on Jeffrey Epstein's plane circulated on social media. For freshman Elijah from Texas, being a first-time voter is exciting, but she has concerns about the process.
In the presidential election, I'm probably going to be voting for Biden. As much as I'm upset with him right now, just about the state of things, I would have liked to vote independent, but the problem is we say, oh, you can have independent parties, we have third options, there's plenty of options. We operate under a two-party system, fundamentally, so it's just, I might as well.
Last year, the Center for Information and Research on Civic Learning and Engagement conducted a survey on young people in this year's election. It showed 57% of people ages 18 to 34 say they're extremely likely to vote, and another 15% say they're fairly likely to vote. Key issues are the economy, climate, reproductive rights, guns, and the Israel-Hamas war, and immigration. Luis, a junior who voted in the last election, says he'll only support a candidate who's tackling an issue he considers important, the war in Gaza.
A major one is definitely the things going on out in the Middle East, in Gaza and Rafah. Definitely, doing what we can to help, Palestinians rather than just fight against them, even though they're not doing anything. But those are the things that's going to help me kind of make my choice.
Some young people feel a sense of dread moving into the elections.
Of the upcoming election. If I'm being frank, I don't know where this is going to, but I'm just dreading it overall because, my vote counts. It matters. It's just like, dang, I still know what's going to happen,
Personally, it does very much feel like a really weird choice, but I do know kind of where I want to end that vote at, as well as still trying to kind of gauge how well can this work out kind of thing. But I'm ready to kind of just go in and get it over with at this point.
I'm probably more optimistic than most people. I think there's a good it's a little scary, obviously, because in a way it does feel like 2020 all over again. But I think, hopefully as we get closer to the election, the choice will become clearer to most people.
Others like John says it's vital for people to educate themselves on the issues and the candidates.
Because if you're already registering to vote, you might as well educate yourself on who you're going to be voting for. So just small things like having a little table set up in the student center is a real big deal.
For Good Day DePaul here in Lincoln Park, I'm Princess Siafa.
A major controversy over free speech at USC, Southern California University. USC has canceled the commencement speech of Asna Tabassum, the class valedictorian. The university says, quote, "The intensity of feelings fueled by social media and the ongoing conflict in the Middle East has grown to include many voices outside of USC and has escalated to the point of creating substantial risks relating to security and disruption at commencement." The university reportedly received complaints about Tabassum over her social media postings that called for people to learn about what's happening in Palestine and how to help. Tabassum, a first-generation South Asian American Muslim, said, quote, "I am shocked by this decision and profoundly disappointed that the university is succumbing to a campaign of hate to silence my voice." The Council on American Islamic Relation, a Muslim civil rights organization, criticized the decision, calling it cowardly and demanded that USC reverse it. But some Jewish groups in California praised the decision.
The war in Gaza continues to cause turmoil on college campuses. On April 18th, more than 100 pro-Palestinian students were arrested at Columbia University in New York. The university president called in police after the students refused to leave a protest encampment on campus. But soon after that, other protesters camped out in another area of the campus. Columbia officials then said that for safety reasons, classes will be held remotely for the remainder of the semester. Meanwhile, pro-Palestinian demonstrators were also arrested at Yale and New York University. Meanwhile, at Northwestern University in suburban Evanston, protesters also set up an encampment. I was there last week and talked to some of the people involved. For over 200 days, the war between Israel and Hamas has been relentless. Now, at colleges across America, at schools such as Yale, Columbia, Emerson, and now Northwestern, encampment-style protests have been organized by students and faculty.
Our cause is just, our mission is righteous, and our work is love.
Signs and banners decorate what students are calling the Northwestern Liberation Zone, a solidarity encampment protesting the university's financial investments and support for Israeli institutions.
I am out here to support the students. I believe the students fully have the right to their free speech, to the right to protest, and the right to demand that their university live up to their values. The students, are showing us all what it looks like to really exist in this world and be a source of change, and we need to be inspired by that and not repress it.
The lawn outside the Deering Library was filled with dozens of tents and hundreds of protesters, students, and Northwestern faculty members. In solidarity with Palestine, the protesters' main demands include the university disclose and divest from investments in Israeli institutions and partnerships which legitimize what the protesters call genocide and occupation and protect student civil liberties and safety. Other demands were outlined in a petition called the People's Resolution. The encampment was equipped with a medical tent and donated supplies such as tarps, food, and water. The Northwestern University Divestment Coalition said, quote, "After 50 hours on the encampment, we are continuing productive conversations with Northwestern administration on a plan to achieve concrete and meaningful positive change to serve the Northwestern community as a whole. We are committed to staying on Deering Metal for as long as it takes for Northwestern to become serious about divesting from death." Protesters outside the fence could be heard chanting, while those inside the encampment participated in programming, including speeches.
What you are doing is also giving Palestinians experiencing genocide hope.
Music, prayer, meditation, dancing, and more. After observing, April Harkness shared her thoughts regarding the encampment.
It's actually good to see that Northwestern, even though they're protesting on the opposite side, that it's actually civil. Despite someone calling me a baby killer, actually civil, I felt safe. Right? So kudos to Northwestern, even though they're on the opposite side that I am, that they actually, are protesting in a way that gets their message across without being violent or scary.
The war between Israel and Hamas has left many people in the United States divided.
What is scary are actually people that aren't saying anything. Right? Stand up for something, or you stand for nothing.
Reporting from Northwestern University for Good Day DePaul, I'm Lena Gebhardt.
Some DePaul students and faculty are now involved in a unique approach to education. It's called Humanities X. Good Day DePaul's Will Frankel has the details.
Since its creation only 3 years ago, the Humanities X program allows DePaul students to engage with the community in new and distinct ways. The program brings in 6 faculty members, 6 student fellows, and 3 community partners to build courses intended to bring humanities back to humans. Humanities are studies that focus on human beings and their culture and values. Each year, there are 3 courses that are different and focus on various subjects. After students work to prepare the courses in the winter, they assist in the classroom in the spring.
A lot of tangible projects have come out of it, so it's great. The projects are, we hope that they'll be beneficial for the organizations that are partners. We hope that the students will get a chance to see the work of the humanities in the world.
One recent event organized by Humanities X dealt with their theme of environmental protection. It showed a Chinese film at a local theater.
Even more interesting organizations that aren't directly related to the environment, like Sophia's Choice, which is a film organization that's dedicated to showing Asian cinema in Chicago. And with them, we were able to show a Chinese film regarding like the environment.
This spring quarter, one group will help organize and restore the archives at Gerber Hart, the Chicago library that focuses on the culture and history of LGBTQ people and additional marginalized sexual and gender minorities. The class will learn about queer history and the recent book bans.
6 faculty members and 3 community partners all went up there, and we got to explore the archives and sort of learn about how Gerber Hart approached democracy and rights, and we did that for each of our community fellows.
We'll be going there every Thursday for our class. Tuesdays we'll meet on campus, Thursdays we'll be in the archives, going through the materials and prepping for our final exhibition that we'll do in the archive space.
Humanities X intends to get students back in the community so they can learn by experience.
The whole idea of Humanities X is to experiment over the course of 3 years by giving faculty and partners and students space so that they can develop these courses that are really experiential and in the humanities.
One, I think in terms of working with people from diverse backgrounds, I think is really something that I've strongly developed, and understanding how to find your role within a group and understanding how to build group dynamics.
The 3 classes will host many events at the end of this quarter. More information is available on the Humanities X website. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Will Frankel.
The DePaul Art Museum is now featuring a powerful exhibit by a Chicago artist. I recently went to the museum to view this exhibit that has a number of important messages. In her first solo museum exhibition called In Memory of, Chicago-based artist Selva Aparicio transforms the first floor of the DePaul Art Museum into a domestic setting, drawing on discarded and natural materials which reveal themes of memory, death, intimacy, and mourning. Aparicio works with materials such as plants, wasp nests, lettuce, and even taxidermy. Aparicio says, quote, "I am interested in working in that space of death and decomposition. Extend that moment and work with those materials that contain memories to reflect on what they contain."
It's really central in her work to speak about life and death and everything in between, and how these materials can speak to us and also speak to her. She speaks really nicely about this and says that the materials, these natural elements, are her collaborators. So it's not that she dictates how they will exist, but lets them speak to her and sort of see how in conversation, in relationship, the work is created.
Aparicio was born on the woody outskirts of Barcelona, Spain in 1987. Her upbringing surrounded by nature and its themes of life and death, as well as her experiences with domestic violence, greatly influenced the exhibition and challenged viewers to reimagine common and domestic settings.
In addition to that relationship to her, to where she grew up and her home, I think unfortunately Spain has a pretty high number of domestic violence victims, but only recently I would say there has been more of a development, more advocacy for victims as well as survivors of domestic violence, and there's language that we can use now in order to speak about these topics, and I think that also influenced Selva's, I don't know if she would say this, but I think that it influenced her willingness to share her story and her work in this context.
Many of the materials Aparicio uses are difficult to work with, such as wings, hair, thorns, and plant materials. When used in a domestic setting, these materials force people to think about the private or oftentimes uncomfortable aspects of a home life.
This show and Selva's work in general kind of represents the fragility of being in a home space or being maybe where you grew up, and the fragility of themes like around home life and marriage and, you know, relationships. So all the stuff that Selva uses is like obviously very tedious to work with. So flower petals, there's a piece that uses moth wings or cicada wings. And yeah, I don't know, there's just something that's very intentional and meditative about, you know, going through these really difficult processes in a home space.
The DePaul Art Museum invites guests to visit Selva Aparicio's In Memory of now through August 4th. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Lena Gebhardt.
Coming up on Good Day DePaul Sports, more additions to the DePaul men's basketball team under new coach Chris Holtman.
And a DePaul athlete receives Big East honors. Those stories when we return.
Today, the heroes that fight day in and day out on the front lines. Those who are there, innovating in real time, saving lives and answering the call to care in times of crisis. American nurses. Nurses who have been there for each and every one of us in times of crisis for more than 150 years. Nurses are the pillar of strength and the foundation of healthcare and life itself. Nurses are there the day we are born. They are there when your family is in crisis, and they are there in the end. In confronting the most catastrophic health crisis in modern history, we must remember our American nurse heroes need our support as much as we need them. To show our gratitude for their courage and ensure they receive the critical education and support services they need, donate to the Coronavirus Response Fund for Nurses today, in honor of your American nurse hero.
Audit Jagannathan is here now with Good Day DePaul Sports. Audit?
Michaela, DePaul's new men's basketball coach, Chris Holtman, has added 3 more players, with Drake's Connor Enright and Louisville's JJ Traynor coming via the transfer portal, and high school recruit Sekou Kone coming from Milwaukee. Enright, a guard, spent 3 years at Drake. Last year, he shot almost 44% from 3, starting all 33 games for the Bulldogs. Traynor, a 6'8" power forward, averaged 11 points and 6 rebounds in his final 7 games for Louisville. And Kone is a 6'8" power forward who's the number 5 rated recruit in Wisconsin. In tennis, the DePaul men's team has done it again. They won the Big East tournament for the 3rd time in 4 years. They now move on to the national tournament. And the DePaul women's tennis team has also had a great year, but lost to Xavier in the finals of the Big East tournament. In volleyball, DePaul had a winning season last fall and a positive spring exhibition schedule that just ended. All of this is leading to optimism for next year. Good Day DePaul's Samantha Davis has that story.
DePaul volleyball wrapped up their spring season recently and now are hoping for another successful fall season. Coach Marie Zidek will begin her 7th season leading the Blue Demons. She just had her contract extended in February, going through 2027.
When you go through 32 match seasons, not everything's going to be perfect every day. You know, it's like any job. When you do anything for 5 months, you're going to have 30% of your days are going to be really easy and awesome, and you're going to win the match and everything's going to be great, and you're going to think you're great and everything's great. And then 30% are going to be challenging. They're going to be obstacles. Maybe you have an injury. Maybe you lose a match that you feel like we were in the opportunity, in the driver's seat to win. And then 30% are just days you got to grind and get through.
DePaul had a lot of success last season. They had their first postseason appearance in over 20 years at the National Invitational Volleyball Championship, and they secured their first postseason win ever in the first round of that tournament. Prior to that, the last time they played volleyball in December was in 2001 in the NCAA tournament. The Blue Demons finished their regular season 5th out of 11 teams in the Big East. Before the NIVC, DePaul also got their first ever big season tournament win in round 1 over Xavier. It takes a lot to get to a volleyball postseason. Out of 334 Division I programs competing for a postseason spot, only 96 teams make it. 64 in the NCAA tournament and 32 in the NIVC. Upcoming senior setter Ashley Kadiamont talks about how the team prepares for each match, treating every practice like it's a competition.
A lot of the times before matches, like the few practices before, we'll compete a lot more, and whenever we get into our team huddles, we're kind of just like, pretend this is a game. Let's just compete as hard as we can, give it our all before, so we're prepared.
After wrapping up the spring, which is comprised of exhibition matches and doesn't count toward their regular season record, the team will go down to meeting for just 8 hours a week instead of 20 per NCAA rules until they return after summer break. Coach Zidek thinks of the spring as their preseason to fall. She takes the time during these months to expand her players' skills.
So we do 2 main things. We try to add to everybody's high end of their game. And so if they're an attacker, we try to expand their range on attacks. If they're ball control players, we try to expand the amount of balls that they can pass and dig. Our setters add new wrinkles to our offensive systems. And then really it's about setting a standard that we want to start August with. You know, I always say off season is really your preseason. Like right now is our preseason. Once we get to August, we're in season.
After a busy spring and with a hunger to get back into the NCAA tournament, DePaul has their eyes set on taking last year's successes and capitalizing on them even more. For Good Day DePaul, I'm Samantha Davis.
Her name is Jaya Hoff, and she's a sophomore triple jumper for DePaul's track and field team. Earlier this year, she was named Big East Field Athlete of the Week. I recently talked to Jaya and her coach to learn more about this young and promising DePaul athlete.
I got into track when I was really young. My mom, she saw me running faster than everybody, then she threw me in track.
DePaul sophomore triple jumper Jaya Hoff was named Big East Field Athlete of the Week earlier this month. A star since high school, the Wisconsin native has been breaking records all her life.
So, you know, Jay is an athlete who came in with unbelievable high school athleticism, talent, just raw jumping ability was just off the charts. You know, really with her, it wasn't so much about how do we get her to jump far, but how do we get her to use what she has athletically, to use it most efficiently so that she can have access to her actual potential. Because, I mean, I wouldn't even say that she's really scratched the surface of her full potential just yet.
But it hasn't always been smooth sailing for Hoff since she came to DePaul last year. She suffered a knee injury last season that kept her out of action until the beginning of this year.
It was hard. It was very hard. That was my first real injury, so just having the support I needed from my family, my teammates, my coaches, that really helped in just taking my mind off it by doing little things, puzzles, going on walks, anything that could help, that just take my mind off of it.
She's been through an injury that took her out of competition for several months, so I mean she's very resilient. That took a toll on her physically, obviously, and mentally as well. She had a surgery and everything, but you know she's very resilient, and you know we kind of sat down and broke down what led to this, and we made the corrections necessary to make sure that she's jumping efficiently and safely, and you know she's just quick to learn, quick to make corrections.
The injury, however, has not affected Hoff on the field.
A lot of athletes, you know, will come back and maybe it'll take a while for them to reclaim their former glory, but she's come out and set a monster PR off of this injury, and this has been a huge turnaround. So she's very resilient, very quick to learn, and very eager with an open mind.
Hoff was named Big East Field Athlete of the Week after a record-breaking jump of 13.08 meters, which won her the women's triple jump B section at the Texas Relays. Her teammate Alicia Jones believes she deserved the honor.
I was so excited for her. She deserves it. She really does. Like, she is just so crazy and insane. And I'm happy that they finally acknowledged her achievements. She's achieved so much, and she's only a sophomore. So, guys, we're in for a real treat because she's gonna. There's no limits to Jaya. Like, she's insane. She's gonna jump farther than anyone could ever imagine.
Both her jumps coach and her teammate have huge expectations for Hoff in the future.
She be a national champion for DePaul, you know, multi-conference champion. She could take the conference record, and she's already went to the U20 division of the U.S. National Championship last year. We're looking at Olympic trials this year. Again, this is still off a short approach. So I mean, she could go pro. She could go pro. She could be one of the top triple jumpers.
She's already made her mark, and like I said, she's a sophomore. So I think she's gonna create history, for sure. It's the Olympic year, so I think she's gonna be a part of that. I'm very excited to see what she has. I'm excited to see what she'll do here at DePaul, and I know for a fact that she could go pro. She can go past collegiate athletes and be something very amazing.
But Hoff already has a contingency plan if she can't go pro.
If I can't go pro, then I can use the knowledge that I have to build up other athletes and help them. So just coaching or maybe sports psychology, because I went through something that really messed up my mental, and just helping other athletes is where I can see myself.
For Good Day DePaul, I'm Adar Jagannathan. And finally, a strong showing for the DePaul cheer team as they finished 10th in the NCAA Collegiate Nationals. DePaul competed in the Intermediate Division I small co-ed category. This was the biggest NCAA championship tournament in history, with over 570 teams across 60 divisions. And that's sports. Back to you, Lena.
Thanks, Audit. Coming up, DePaul honors some outstanding journalists.
Stay with us.
I think we should split. Split up? Why? I want to meet new people. People who need me. Meet new people? You're my left kidney. You only need one of me, man. And you have two. There are plenty of people out there who are dying because they don't have one. Really? You'll be giving the gift of life. I could be a hero. Yeah. It's all win-win up here, buddy. Why don't you go and save a life, pal? You're doing the right thing.
DePaul's law school has a new interim dean. She is Julie Lawton, who's been a business law professor and associate dean for experiential learning in the law school. Lawton replaces Dean Jen Rosado Perea, who's taken a job with the American Bar Association.
DePaul's Center for Journalism Integrity and Excellence recently presented its annual honors. Longtime ABC News correspondent John Quinones was named Distinguished Journalist. Rachel Hinton, a Block Club Chicago investigative reporter and former Chicago Sun-Times political reporter, was named Distinguished DePaul Alumna. And Marty Wilkie, the former general manager at CBS2 and WGN-TV in Chicago and a DePaul alumna, was named Distinguished Mentor.
That's all for this week's edition of Good Day DePaul. You can keep up with us by visiting our Vimeo channel at Good Day DePaul or by going to goodday.depaul.edu.
And be sure to check us out on Facebook.
And if you have any news tips, message us through the Good Day DePaul social media channels.
Thanks for watching. I'm Michaela Wilson.
And I'm Lena Gebhardt. Have a good day, DePaul.